Today, we are taking a careful look at a series of claims circulating around Iraq's currency reform agenda, banking reforms, the proposed deletion of 3 zeros, government restructuring, and the upcoming 2027 budget. There is certainly a lot of discussion surrounding these developments. But the most important point for Iraqi Dinar followers is to separate confirmed economic policy from interpretation, commentary, and speculation. One of the biggest claims in the information we are analyzing is that an official decision has already been made to delete 3 zeros from the Iraqi currency. This is an important distinction to examine. A deletion of zeros, often described as redenomination, is fundamentally different from an overnight revaluation that suddenly changes the international purchasing power of the currency. Redenomination can be an accounting and currency management exercise designed to simplify denominations and improve the efficiency of cash transactions. A change in the exchange rate, meanwhile, is a separate monetary policy decision with much broader implications. That distinction is extremely important because the phrase "delete 3 zeros" can easily be misunderstood. If Iraq were to redenominate its currency, the government and Central Bank of Iraq would need to establish the conversion rules, timing, legal framework, replacement of notes, treatment of bank balances, accounting systems, contracts, and public communications. None of those steps should automatically be interpreted as proof that the dinar is about to receive a dramatically higher exchange rate against the US dollar. In fact, the Central Bank of Iraq has recently emphasized that its monetary strategy is focused on maintaining exchange rate and economic stability while continuing broad financial sector reforms. The bank has also highlighted efforts to improve Iraqi banks' integration into the international financial system and strengthen anti-money laundering and regulatory standards. This brings us to what may be the more significant story for dinar followers. Banking reform. Iraq has been working to bring its banking sector into a stronger compliance and international transactions framework. The central bank has said that some restricted banks have been progressing through reform requirements involving supervision, technical standards, and anti-money laundering and counter-terrorist financing controls. That matters because a sustainable currency system requires more than simply changing the number printed on a banknote. It requires credible banks, transparent transactions, reliable payment infrastructure, effective financial supervision, and confidence among businesses and households. Recent reporting also shows that Washington and Baghdad have been discussing Iraq's financial and banking system in much broader terms. The United States has maintained pressure for stronger financial compliance, while Iraq's new government has placed banking reform, corruption controls, and financial oversight among its priorities. Another claim being discussed is that approximately 40 trillion Iraqi dinars could potentially be blocked through proof of origin checks. This should be treated very carefully. A figure circulating in commentary is not the same thing as a confirmed central bank announcement. Proof of origin requirements are generally associated with financial transparency and compliance, meaning banks and financial institutions may need to understand where funds came from and whether transactions meet legal and regulatory requirements. For Iraqi dinar holders, the broader message is more important than the specific number. Iraq appears to be moving toward a financial environment where large transactions, currency flows, and banking relationships are expected to receive greater scrutiny. That can be uncomfortable for participants accustomed to a largely cash-based economy. But from a financial system perspective, stronger documentation and traceability can help reduce money laundering, illicit transfers, and informal financial activity. The discussion about communications minister involvement in currency matters is another area where viewers should remain cautious. Monetary policy and exchange rate management are primarily matters for the central bank and the broader government economic framework. If another senior official comments on the currency, that may indicate political interest in the subject, but it does not automatically represent a formal exchange rate decision. The central bank itself has previously warned about inaccurate or misleading currency-related reporting, including a June statement saying a circulated document concerning an exchange rate change was forged. Now let us consider Prime Minister Ali al-Zaidi's first months in office. There is credible evidence that his administration has made economic restructuring, corruption controls, foreign investment, and financial reform important parts of its agenda. During his Washington visit, Al-Zaidi discussed expanding economic cooperation with the United States and attracting investment into Iraq's energy, infrastructure, technology, and other sectors. That is significant, but again, it does not establish a predetermined exchange rate target. The administration's efforts to cancel questionable contracts, recover assets, and improve fiscal management could potentially strengthen Iraq's financial position over time. Better fiscal discipline can create more room for public investment and reduce unnecessary pressure on government finances. But it would be inaccurate to say that contract cancellations automatically create the conditions for a specific dinar rate. The same applies to the 2027 budget. Iraq's government has already indicated that work is underway on next year's budget. The circulating analysis suggests that a budget prepared using the existing exchange rate framework could create a policy window if the government later decided to make a major exchange rate adjustment. From an economic perspective, that is an interesting concept because exchange rates affect government revenues, expenditures, imports, public sector salaries, subsidies, and the value of oil revenues when converted into dinars. However, the existence of a budget deadline does not mean that a revaluation must occur before that deadline. Governments can revise assumptions, amend budgets, or continue with an existing exchange rate policy. Therefore, viewers should see the late September or early October budget discussion as an important monitoring point, not as a guaranteed countdown to a currency event. In the short term, the most meaningful developments to watch are official central bank announcements, banking sector compliance reforms, digital payment expansion, government fiscal measures, and the structure of the 2027 budget. These are measurable developments that can tell us much more about Iraq's economic direction than social media claims about a specific future exchange rate. Digital payments are especially important. Iraq's transition away from an overwhelmingly cash-based economy can improve transaction transparency, reduce informal activity, and make the banking system more useful to ordinary citizens and businesses. Over the long term, greater use of electronic payments and stronger bank integration could support a more modern financial system. For Iraqi Dinar followers, this means the real story may be bigger than the question of whether 3 zeros disappear. The deeper story is whether Iraq can successfully modernize its banking infrastructure, strengthen fiscal discipline, improve compliance, diversify economic activity, and build confidence in the domestic financial system. There is also a broader geopolitical dimension. Iraq is attempting to strengthen its relationships with international partners while improving its economic and financial institutions. Recent reporting indicates that the United States has been using its financial influence to encourage stronger controls over Iraq's banking system and dollar flows. At the same time, Iraq is seeking greater investment, higher oil production, and additional export routes to strengthen its economic position. Taken together, these developments can create a more supportive environment for long-term monetary stability. But stability should not be confused with guaranteed appreciation. So what should viewers take away from today's analysis? The first point is that currency redenomination and exchange rate appreciation are two different processes. The second is that Iraq's banking reforms are real and potentially very important, but they are likely to take time. The third is that the 2027 budget could become an important policy document because it will reveal how the government approaches revenues, expenditures, oil assumptions, and monetary conditions. And finally, any genuine exchange rate change should ultimately be confirmed through official institutions, not rumors, screenshots, private conversations, or predictions from commentators. For the short term, expect continued attention on banking compliance, digital payments, fiscal reforms, government restructuring, and the 2027 budget process. For the long term, the real test will be whether these reforms produce a banking system that Iraqis and international institutions can trust. If Iraq succeeds in strengthening its financial institutions, improving transparency, increasing investment, and reducing dependence on informal cash transactions, the Iraqi economy could become more resilient. That would be positive for the dinar's overall monetary environment, even if the precise exchange rate remains uncertain. The responsible approach for dinar followers is therefore to watch the official policy signals, rather than assume that every reform automatically means a sudden revaluation. A stronger financial system is built step by step, and credible monetary policy depends on sustainable economic fundamentals. That is the key message from today's Iraqi Dinar update. There are genuine reforms taking place, important fiscal decisions approaching, and significant changes underway in Iraq's banking and economic landscape. But until the Central Bank of Iraq or another competent Iraqi authority formally announces an exchange rate change, claims of a specific new dinar value should remain unconfirmed. Thank you for watching Iraqi Dinar News. Make sure to subscribe and stay connected for responsible, factual, and carefully analyzed Iraqi dinar and Iraq economic updates. Remember, this content is provided for informational and educational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always conduct your own research and consult a qualified financial professional before making any financial decision.